I'd only stepped onto the porch for a second. When I turned the knob, the deadbolt had been thrown from the inside. Then I heard something move in the dark. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sleet had turned to that fine, needling kind of rain that gets into your collar and stays there. It was just after 11:30, late winter, the kind of night when every house on the street looked sealed shut and tired. My wife had gone up early. She texted me around 9 that she was taking something for a headache and heading to bed. I remember reading it at a red light and thinking how jealous I was that she'd be under blankets while I was still dragging through the end of my shift. When I got inside, the house had that close, warm feeling it gets after the heat's been running all evening. I kicked off my wet shoes on the mat, hung my jacket over the banister, and stood in the kitchen for a second with my hands on the counter, just enjoying the quiet. The dishwasher had finished. The clock over the stove made a soft ticking sound. Upstairs, nothing. I poured myself a drink, not because I was in a good mood, but because I wanted something cold and uncomplicated before bed. I didn't bother turning on the television. I just sat at the end of the couch in the dim light over the stove and listened to the wind worry at the side of the house. Then everything cut out. Not dimmed, not flickered, just gone. The refrigerator stopped humming. The heat clicked off mid-cycle. The little amber light over the sink vanished, and the room folded in on itself so fast, it felt like someone had covered my eyes. I swore under my breath and stood still for a moment, waiting to see if it came back. It didn't. We lose power sometimes when the weather turns. So at first, that was all I thought it was. A bad line somewhere. A transformer down the road. I went to the front window and pulled the curtain aside. The houses across from us still had lights on. That immediately changed the feeling of it. I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. The air hit cold and wet. Down the block, one garage light glowed over a driveway. A television flashed blue through somebody's living room window. Our place sat black and flat among it, like it had been singled out. I pulled the door mostly shut behind me out of habit, then went down the steps and around the side of the house toward the meter. Halfway there, I heard something inside. It was small, a dull bump, then another, somewhere deep in the first floor. I stopped and turned back. The porch light was dead, so the front of the house was only shapes. I went back up the steps and grabbed the knob. It wouldn't turn. I tried again, harder this time, expecting I hadn't caught it right in the dark. The latch gave a little, but the door held. I remember just standing there for a second, not understanding. The deadbolt had been thrown. I called my wife's name through the wood, not yelling yet, just loud enough that she'd hear me if she was awake. No answer. I knocked, then pounded. Still nothing. I went off the porch and cut around to the back, slipping in the wet grass. The slider was shut tight with the curtain drawn. The little thumb lock at the top was down. We almost never used that unless we were both inside for the night. That was the point when panic really started. Not fast, not dramatic. It came in low and heavy like cold water filling up a tub. I turned toward the side yard again and saw the meter box cover hanging crooked. The latch had been pried open. One of the conduit lines below it looked wrong, too clean at the end, and the wet siding beneath had dark streaks running down it. Somebody had been standing there. Somebody had done something deliberate to my house while I was already home. I looked up and saw a narrow beam of light slide across the dining room wall. Then another, not lightning, flashlights, moving, searching, crossing over each other in quick, nervous sweeps. For a second I just stared, trying to force my brain to make it into something else. Then I reached for my phone and found an empty pocket. I had left it on the kitchen counter when I came in. My wife was still upstairs. I ran to the driveway and hit the unlock button on my truck, then leaned in through the open door and laid on the horn. The sound split the whole street open. I flashed the high beam straight at the second-floor windows. Once, twice, again. A bedroom curtain moved. I ran beneath it and shouted her name as loud as I could. The window opened a few inches. I could barely make out her face in the dark. "Don't come downstairs," I said. "Lock yourself in the bathroom. Call 911. I don't know if she heard every word. I only know she disappeared from the window right away. Inside the house, the flashlight beams went out. That was somehow worse. The rooms became blank again, but no less occupied. I could feel movement in there without seeing it. A shape crossed the front hall. Something hit the wall near the stairs. Then the whole first floor went still, like whoever was inside had stopped to listen. The people next door must have heard the horn because their mudroom light came on. I ran across the lawn and pounded on the side door hard enough to hurt my hand. Mr. Wyndham opened it in pajama pants and boots, with his wife already behind him holding her phone. I said too much all at once. "Power cut. Someone inside. My wife is upstairs." Mrs. Wyndham was already talking to dispatch before I finished. I went back to the edge of my yard and stood there uselessly, staring at my own dark windows. The rain kept ticking through the branches. A gutter spilled over by the garage. Somewhere in the back, a gate hit its post once, then again. When the police arrived, it happened quickly and not quickly enough. Lights washed over the front of the house. Doors opened. Voices carried. By then, the gate at the rear fence was standing open, and the mud along the side path was churned up with prints too smeared to mean anything to me. They had taken drawers apart downstairs, jewelry box emptied, cash from the jar above the fridge, my wife's grandmother's bracelet from the dresser. What stayed with me wasn't any of that. It was what she told me later, after the house was bright again and full of other people's wet footprints. She said she made it into the bathroom off our bedroom and locked the door with shaking hands. She didn't call 911 right away because she dropped her phone once and couldn't get her fingers to work. While she was on the floor by the tub, trying to stay quiet, she heard someone come into the bedroom. Not rushing, just walking. Drawers opened, closed, opened again, then nothing. Then one slow turn of the bathroom knob. It didn't rattle, it didn't slam. Whoever was on the other side just tried it once, found it locked, and stood there long enough that she could hear the floor creak under their weight before they walked away. We replaced the deadbolt the next day. I put motion lights along the side yard and cameras over both doors. We said all the practical things people say after something like that. We got through the insurance list. We slept badly. We kept going. But I still don't know why one of them locked me out first.
Like, share, subscribe.